What's up, guys? Every now and then, I'm going to get the assessment team who manage all the assessment for every student that we have. That's whether they're completely green, a fitness professional, if they're a current student in a university program, or they're graduates applying for credit and just filling in the module gaps and subject gaps they need to become registered and accredited as a professional member within the association. So I'll catch up with the whole assessment team every 1 to 3 months, and we're just going to talk about topically relevant things that we think will help people as it relates to their study or as it relates to how they're going to be approaching practicing as a professional sports nutritionist. So in this particular video, we're covering their student pathway and what it was like. So what they were doing before they were a professional member, and then what their student experience was like to an extent, and then what they've done since graduating and what they're doing now as professionals. So the assessment team are still practicing as professionally registered, open, accredited sports nutritionists. So as you may or may not be aware, within the association, we have a 3-year provisional registration available to our members, and we do require that they go and do some additional study, either at a bachelor's or at a graduate diploma level with one of the private institutes that we can refer into that have guaranteed entry to our graduates that otherwise wouldn't receive this at some stage. Now, some people are really keen and they want to study and then enroll into a graduate diploma or a bachelor's program immediately after they graduate from the certificate. And for those people, we actually recommend that if they're going to enroll, they enroll part-time, or they spend at least 6 to 9 months practicing as a sports nutritionist to develop the learns, losses, and lessons. So all the L's associated with refining their craft as a sports nutritionist, to then work out exactly what market and what demographic of client they want to be working with, and then how they're going to be approaching that in their career for the long term. So first up, we have Phil. Phil Smith has worked as a personal trainer and strength coach for the better part of the last decade. He'd done a lot of private courses beforehand, and he's going to walk you through what his journey was like.
So for me, obviously, after the certificate in applied sports nutrition, I spent approximately sort of 6 to 12 months building a client base. From there, I deliberately went out and found a range of clients. I actually coached almost for 2 years for free without charging somebody to build up my coaching skill. That allowed me to actually build a wide demographic and wide base of clients. And then from there, I actually reached out to you, Alex, and you organized for me to be I'm part of the postgrad sort of program. So from there, I actually went on and sort of made a more of a niche. So after I dealt with gym population, trying to improve their overall wellness, improve their overall health and sort of and physical goals by the way of body composition, and even just being better with their kids, their families, and just being weekend warriors. I started to sort of bring in and draw in and narrow my market to more of a sporting field, and I started to work with recreational CrossFitters, and then I built into competitive CrossFitters, and then I worked with military, trying to go for things like special forces and other sort of performance-based clientele. And then from there, I've been able to sort of structure my niche more around strength athletes, and that's been a real winner for me. But strength athletes, not just in the powerlifting world or the strongman world, but inclusive of weightlifting, strongman, powerlifting, and also, once again, staying with that military clientele as well, who are going for things like SBET, 2 Commandos, SAS, things like that. And that's where I built my structure and my program from. And it's all come from that beginning with the certificate in applied nutrition.
Next up, we have Julia. Julia is a Sydney-based CrossFit coach as well as performance nutritionist. Julia actually owns CrossFit North Head. She's one of the owners and directors there. She also works with a lot of young Australian swimming Olympic hopefuls.
Before I did the cert, I was nutrition coaching, if you like, for probably around 5 years. So I'd done some more holistic health, holistic nutrition sort of courses. And because I own a gym, I've, have a lot of people come to me asking for, advice to do with their training, general nutrition, that sort of thing. So it just kind of developed from there. I've been doing it for about 5 years. And then I kind of thought, well, I think, my information is probably quite outdated now. I sort of researched different things, different courses to do to kind of bring my education more up to date. And the certificate was the one that I went for, just because it seemed to align with what I really believe that you need to have a lot of. And I pretty much went straight from the certificate onto the diploma.
Next up, we have Ford. Ford's been in the industry for well over 10 years. He was a personal trainer before he then became an accredited sports nutritionist. And he worked as a fitness manager and PT supervisor for the Good Life franchise for the better part of 6 years before moving to Tasmania and primarily working as a performance nutritionist.
So I did the course back in 2016. I found it really improved my knowledge in areas I didn't know, but also reconfirmed a lot of things that I already did know about nutrition. Gave me the tools to then sort of continue on with my sort of coaching that I was already doing, expand on my services. Then I can add in a more professional nutritional service to my clients, then help them further. And then this has helped me to get to the stage where I can then sort of continue my study into nutrition as well. I found when I went through the course, all the content that was provided, the information was very in-depth. Now being a part of the assessment team, I've been able to see the course progress to where it is now. All the information and content has all been updated, and it's something that at SNA they take pride on, always updating the content. Through the course, I found a really benefit from is knowing that the information I'm providing is up to date and I can help my clients in the best way, which is still the same standard now, but we're providing for the students currently.
Next up, we have Mackenzie Baker. Mackenzie came through from our certificate, went into a private graduate diploma, and is now doing his master's in sport, exercise, and nutrition sciences. Mackenzie has been working as a nutrition coach for the better part of the last 6 years, and he talks about his experience in going through that whole process within the professional body.
So I was a personal trainer, which I sort of fell into by accident. I never really intended on being a personal trainer. And I sort of decided, I sort of built an interest in nutrition. So then I started to sort of dabble more into nutrition with my personal training clients. Started to do a few sort of hobby courses here and there, a few seminar things there. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. And then I did Mac Nutrition Uni, and I started talking about nutrition on social media. And then I was like, okay, this is a bit of a thing now. I should look further into education. And that's when I actually looked for formal accreditation. So then I went and did the cert. And at that point in time, I started getting people hitting me up for nutrition guidance online. And at that point, I did have a few clients working online, and then it just continued to snowball there. And over time, I pulled out personal training, did less and less and less. And throughout that time, I did more and more and more online nutrition. And by the time I finished my postgraduate diploma in sports nutrition, I was full-time as an online nutritionist, and personal training was for me a thing of the past.
So Matt is our assessment team leader. He has a bachelor's in exercise and nutrition science, as well as being a registered professional member as an openly accredited sports nutritionist. Matt has a wealth of experience, and he supervises everything the assessment team do as they interact with you.
So I did exercise science, finished that as a bachelor's degree in 2008, and then kind of got into nutrition, doing lots of different hobby courses, and started kind of coaching clients around habits, behaviors, a little bit of macro and that macro nutrient tracking and that sort of thing, but didn't know kind of 100% what I was doing. And then at some stage I found Dr. Eric Helms's information around his muscle and strength pyramids, and that kind of formed the basis of how I did a lot of my coaching. Talked to Alex and found out that the whole insurance side of things, that I wasn't really operating under my normal scope of practice. I was like, well, I should probably do that. And then one of the biggest changes or different ways of thinking that I got out of the course was the programming process model, and how to kind of periodize long-term for normal body composition, weight gain, weight loss type clients, and then how to think about long-term periodization for sports performance clients as well. So that was probably the biggest thing that I took away from the course. And then just a little bit of background, after I did that, I started Sports Nutrition New Zealand with Alex, and now I'm an active director in the association as well, and the assessment team leader.
So as you can see here, every single member of the assessment team, because they studied with us really, really early on in the association and Sports Nutrition Australia's inception, they had already had a bunch of coaching experience leading up until that point. So they weren't coming in as a green, uneducated, unfamiliar with the subject matter professional. They came through, some received credit, and then some went through the whole program. So they'd already refined their coaching craft and their abilities as a single service provider and coach up until that point. So they were able to then, if they needed to progress into further study, they were able to do so straight away. Whereas for some of you looking at doing the program now, for some of our more recent students, this may be your first foray into the educational space. So we want you to spend that time in there. And as you can see, they've all had that experience in refining their craft up until that point. So you can see how it applies to them. Now, our recommended model is just that, a model. So it shouldn't be taken as the word of law. It's just our recommendation that if this is your first foray and exposure into the subject matter, we want you to learn the theory and then start refining the practical application in a client setting before diving deeper into further studies. So I hope you found this video helpful. We're going to be releasing some more stuff in the future. The next one coming up is around bioenergetics, so keep an eye out on that. So hopefully we can help pre-qualify some people and give you the information so you can see what's actually involved in the bioenergetics prac to help your first submissions be a little bit more successful. So if you like this, be sure to like, subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on. And then for any other further inquiries, go to www.sportsnutritionassociation.com and you can follow any of the contact form prompts in there, and we'd be glad to help you from that point.